Welcome to Wine 101, Module 2. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Excited to taste some wine with you guys and talk about wine. Did everyone figure out Cornerstone and how to log on and do? I'm asking you this. I already knew the answer. You guys all did it, I think. I think it was 95%. Maybe somebody was in progress, but that was this morning. So, you know what? Golf clap. This never happens. You guys are fantastic. So thank you for getting ahead of it and doing it. How do we feel about the module? Good stuff? Jazz hands if we liked it.
One of your questions is wrong.
One of the questions is wrong?
Yeah. For
Which
one of the
one?
select all that applies, it said the US was the third largest producer, but we're actually the fourth.
Ah, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe it was a trick question.
It changed in between when you first, at the beginning of the module to the end. You got to know. You're always going to know. Third producer. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. We'll.
Question number 5, I believe.
Question
Well, that's
5.
why I got it wrong. All right, that makes sense now.
We actually might be the third, though. I don't think we've updated that in a year or so. So things can change. You never know. I'm being serious. U.S. production's higher than ever. So that could be it. All right. So let's get into it. Oh, here comes our 18th. All right. Remember, today, very important. I want you to interrupt at all times. Stop me. Ask questions. I want it to be a conversation, right? That's how we learn. And thank you guys for all having your videos on. And I don't think anyone's driving either. Y'all are my favorite. This is great. All right. So today, what we're going to do, just a little refresher here. We're going to briefly kind of recap session 1, module 1. And then we're going to do all this fun white wine production and styles of wine, sparkling, white, and rosé. And then we'll talk a little bit about factors affecting cost. All right. So here's the deal. I was asking you guys last time about your Last Supper, and you probably thought it was just a little icebreaker, but really it's the way that I have divided you guys into teams. I was really secretly judging you the whole time when you were telling me your Last Supper and your wines. And I divided you into teams based on those. So hold on, let me see. And let me know if you're not happy with your team or your team name, because you can always change it. It won't offend me. I just kind of had to throw some things together. So our first team for this class is Team 815, AKA Joel's boys. You guys all like Joel got 815 cab. So that'll be Daniel, Leo. I can't remember. Are we going by Kyle or Kyle Bailey Kelly or Bailey Kelly? I think we're going by Kyle, right?
Right.
Or KBK. I can't remember now.
Either one.
Either one. Perfect. And then Jaron. So that's our first team there. Next up, we've got the sea shanties. This one was a little tougher. I said if you either had a seafood dish or a wine that would pair well, I think, with seafood. So we have Greg, Bobby, Justin, John, and Corey. Then we got the Bordeaux band, right? These are guys that had some higher end, like Napa cabs or Merlots, or just things that grow well in Bordeaux as well. So that's Richard, Scott, Jimmy, and Andrew. And then you guys were kind of a hodgepodge here, 4-course meal, because we had a dessert wine, we had a couple things going on here. I think we had a Zinfandel. So I thought you guys would pair well together as a meal with different things, right? It'd be a good full meal. So you're probably thinking or saying to yourself, well, what does this matter, right? And how do we get points? Well, Kahoot quizzes, which we're going to try one here in a minute. Has anyone done a Kahoot quiz before? No. Some yes, some no. Okay, cool. Well, it's really easy. I can ask questions to the class. You can answer them correctly. That'll be worth a point for you. Engaging with the class, replying all to the big email, which will come out later, memes or quotes, and professor's choice. So I'm kind of feeling crazy right now. So Candace, you get a point for no reason. Woo. All right. So already, where are you, Candace? So 4-course meal has already got a point. Everyone give it up. It's jazz hands for Candace. Well done.
Ooh.
Hey, Connor.
I have so many people to thank right now. Yes, sir.
Hey, can you call me Rick? Rick Poff?
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I put there? Oh, yeah, I got you.
It's okay. You can give me a point.
You know what? -2 for correcting your name. No, just kidding. That was a good point. No, we are going to give you a point for that, actually. You said Rick. See how easy that is? And look at this. We've already got 1 point here. Look at that. Ta-da. All right, so 815 and sea shanties, you got some work to do. All right, speaking of though, let me get back over here. The highest scoring team will receive a bottle of wine based on their wine family. So it could be something, spoiler alert, if team Joel Gott wins, you guess what you're probably getting. But we'll see. All right, so what we're gonna do now, we're gonna take a Kahoot quiz based off of module 1. So the way we do it here is, there's 2 ways to do Kahoot. Let me pull it up real quick. Let's do knowledge check number 1. All right, so you can either go to kahoot.it on your phone, or there's a little QR code you can scan here in a second. All right, so if you can use your phone and scan that QR code, it'll take you right to this game. If not, go to I'm hearing my echo too, which is crazy. If not, you can go to kahoot.it and put in this game. So we got a couple of Corey's in. Good. John from the Sea Shanties, I like it.
Hey, you said to go to Kahoot, what now?
You can either go to kahoot.it, don't go to kahoot.com, go to kahoot.it, or you can scan this QR code. And it'll take you straight to this game. If you go to kahoot.it, it's going to say put in a game pin. It's this number right here, 157517.
That's not what the nickname, right?
That is not your robotic nickname. No. It can be.
You have to download an app for that?
You do not. So are you scanning the QR code?
I'm not, because I'm on my phone because my kids are using my computer.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. So you need a second device of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta go get mine.
Sorry, guys. Should have let you know.
157.
517.
17.
Then put in a nickname, and then what you'll basically do is use your phone like a remote control. It'll give you an A, B, C, D on your phone, and you'll answer based on what this is.
I think I'm in as sea shanties.
Nice. All right. So you are the whole team, Bobby. I like that.
Yeah. I thought I was supposed to type in the team name.
No, I like that energy, though. I like that you're like, I am sea shanties. It's good stuff.
Yeah. You want me to change it, or is that going to work?
No, that's fine. That's great.
Okay.
Just if you place, remind me that I'll know it's you.
Hey, Connor.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I did the QR code, and where it has nickname. Okay, good. What do I put in the nickname?
That's what I did wrong.
Yeah, just put your name.
Put Richard.
It's not on his watch.
I am not tech savvy.
Who said that?
What do you do after it says you're in?
You just wait.
All right.
We're waiting on a couple more, I think. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Got a couple more we're waiting on.
Yeah, I struggle with this stuff. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. Did you make it to our glorious office though yet, Carolina? Have you been here yet?
No, I have not.
Oh, that's right. You guys didn't have the meeting the other day, right?
Okay, so I'm trying to scan this stupid thing and it won't let me with my phone.
Okay, so
Oh, wait, I got it.
you got
Hold
it? Okay, good.
I think I did.
I'm usually the one that's technologically challenged.
I know.
Oh, I'm big time.
Carolina,
No, it's usually,
Carolina, you get a point if you make it into this thing.
I'm trying.
For what it's worth, it's making it look.
you're in.
You're in the wrong.
All right, is everyone in?
I'm not in yet.
Says my name's already taken.
Is there another? Did you go in twice? There's Rick. Is that not you?
Yeah, I went in twice.
All right, so you can be Rick 2 then, or Richard.
Okay, Rick 2.
Slow down.
All right, are we ready? We're just gonna have to start this thing
We're ready.
or this class. We might not make it through the whole class. All right, well, let's roll. We've got, I think, 6 questions. Question 1, who is the largest consumer of wine in the world? Is it France, Italy, USA, or my wife, Jessica? Who is it? I would have also accepted my wife, and no one put that. But it actually is USA. It is. We are the #1 consumer, right? And a jury's still out on.
Cool.
Jury's still out on producer. Corey S on top. SBR. Let me figure out who SBR.
Scott B. Reed.
Oh, there we go. Okay, Scott, well done. And then just Corey's taking 2 of the top 3. All right, question 2. True or false? The color of wine is determined by the pulp of the grape. Is that true or false?
Ah. Great.
All right, well done. Most of us got it's false, right? The pulp doesn't determine it. It's the skin, it's the maceration, right? All right. Corey's on top. And then John, sea shanties. Question 3. What percentage of water is in an average bottle of wine? 64, 74, 84, and 94%. What could it be? All right, cool. Most of us got that it's 84-ish, depending on the ABV, et cetera, right around there, though. All right, a couple more here. What's the most important decision a winemaker has? How to prevent hail, pruning, pest control, or when to harvest the wine? Beautiful. Woo. Still my heart. Yes, when to harvest the wine. And that's kind of a subjective, question, but it's pretty much it. Whoa, holy moly. Look at this, guys. 3046 to 3044. It's a Corey off today, truly. The battle of the Coreys. It's kind of crazy. All right, and then don't forget sea shanties down here in the third. Question 5. Crushed or pressed, wine that is ready for fermentation is called what? Cuvee, the must, the crush, or the mash? All right, well done, the must, right? Some of y'all were paying attention in the video. Okay, one more here. True or false, American oak is tighter grained than French. Is that true or false? All right, well done, it's false, right? American oak is a little looser, right? Okay, so let's see what we got going on here. Third place with 3 points. John, sea shanties, well done. Corey in second place. And in first place, Corey S. All right, cool. So y'all stay tuned for a second. I am going to take a screenshot of that. Y'all smile for the screenshot. All right, I should have told you that before I started screenshotting. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Let's try one more with everybody. One more here. Smile. All right, not my best work, but we'll get better as this goes on, right? All right, good deal. Great job to both Corys. Okay, any questions about that? Good deal. So already we got some points, major points on the board. And hey, real quick, I just got a question because I'm hearing my own voice being echoed back. Does anyone have two devices going at the same time on the Zoom?
No.
Someone's giving me some feedback.
No.
Let me see something here. I'm going to start muting. Wait. I just want to see if they'll stop. Not that one, so it's not Carolina. I'm going to find you. This is like a witch hunt. Bobby, I'm checking you here. No, I'm checking Jimmy. It's not Jimmy. Bobby. Is it Bobby? I don't know. I don't think is it Bobby?
It sounds like it.
Oh,
It's tough luck.
minus 3 points. Bobby, thank you for playing.
You failed one up. 101.
I think it was Bobby, but Bobby, I want you to chime in anytime you want, just with the space bar. You know what I mean? Okay. I still hear myself a little bit somewhere, but it's okay. This is workable. We can work with this. All right. Okay, cool. Let's get into it. Where did that go there? I've got too many monitors going on. All right, put you guys up here in the corner. Okay, so what we're going to do today, we're going to very quickly recap module 1. Then we're going to talk about closures, sparkling wine, white wine, or rosé, factors affecting cost, and what we're going to do next. I don't want to spend a ton of time in this because I feel like this is pretty straightforward. Please stop me if you have any questions about the module that we did last week. So, what is wine? It's grape juice, right? It's got the perfect concentration of acid and flavor to make a really enjoyable beverage. We are, according to this slide, the 4th largest wine producer and the largest wine consumer, right? And we consume, on average, 16 bottles per person versus France at 69 bottles per person. Well, guess what? We've got 350 million or whatever the number is people in the US versus what is France? 80 million, maybe 100 million. So we got them still beat on consumption just by, sheer number of people. So what's in a bottle? We got usually 2.8 pounds of grapes, around 500 grapes, 800 calories, but could be a lot more in dessert wine. And then this is loose numbers here, 84% water, 14% alcohol, 2% other stuff, right? That 2% other, that's all the flavor, right? Okay. And then the last big thing we talked about is basically maceration, right? The juice inside most wine grapes is clear. Has anyone here had a blonde Pinot Noir or seen one? You can make Pinot Noir that looks like Chardonnay, right? You just don't macerate it at all. So I think a Rath, if you guys know a Rath, they make a blonde Pinot Noir, or I think they call it a blonde Pinot, but they just don't macerate it at all. We can think about macerating kind of like a tea bag, a reverse tea bag, right? So the longer that you would put juice on skins, the more color you get, skins being the tea bag, right? So if you throw them on there for, in wine terms, if it's a couple hours or maybe a day, you get a rosé, you get that pink color from the red grapes, right? And if it's a few weeks, you get a lot more of that color. You macerate while you ferment, then you get that dark red to purple color you can get from red grapes. And then the module recaps what we're basically doing from how wine is made: harvesting, crushing, fermenting, aging, finding filtration, filtering, and bottling. And we're going to get a little more into that as we go along. But in the meantime, were there any questions from that module? I always think it's funny they're called modules too. It sounds so robotic, right? Module 1, you know, I feel like we could just call them sessions. Should we rebrand? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
Welcome to module 1. It sounds very like we're trying to be futuristic. Anyway, let's go into module 2. So serving and storing, white wine styles, and we're gonna do some sparkling too. Let's talk about closures. So before before the invention of corks, we used oily rags to and for jugs of wine. So corks were a slightly better situation, right? Closures in general, the object used to seal a bottle. So we have our traditional method, which is the natural cork closure, screw caps, AKA Stelvins, right? Synthetic closures, not a fan of them myself. And then glass closures, right? Those are the 4 big ones. Let's talk about cork. So it's harvested from the bark of the cork oak. It's impermeable and elastic, meaning when you stick it in the bottle, it's elastic, it will form, right? And impermeable is very important because it can let a little bit of oxygen pass through. Why might we want that? If you'd like to, I'm going to ask some questions, and put your hand up or whatever. So Corey, I see you. Why might we like that?
Some wines are still going through fermentation, and so they still need to have some amount of oxygen to blow off.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and most of the time when we put them in the bottle, they're not still going through fermentation, but there are some advantageous things that oxygen can do, right? So, for instance, if there's a lot of tannins in a wine, then that interaction between oxygen and tannins will soften the wine, right? So that can be a really good thing. That's why we put when we put wines in the cellar, we really want to have a cork because it allows a little bit of oxygen to get through, and that softens the wine and changes it, right? So we harvest for the first time at 25 to 30 years old. So if me and Corey decide to go in business, either Corey, we'll call it Corey's and Connor's cork oak business. We're not going to get our first harvest for 25 to 30 years, right? That's kind of crazy. So I'd be an old man before we get our first harvest, right? Then after that, you can peel the bark every 9 to 13 years. Does anyone know, and raise your hand if you do, what country produces the most cork? Just throwing them out there.
Canada?
Who was that? Was that Rick?
Yes.
It's a good guess. It's actually Portugal. For whatever reason, conditions are right enough that Portugal harvests 50% of the world's wine cork production. I don't know if Canada makes any or not. I'm not really sure. The big one to know is Portugal, and then Spain makes a lot for whatever reason. But the disadvantage is possibility of TCA, right? Who can raise their hand and tell me what TCA is? Or has anyone ever heard of it? AKA cork taint, right? With a corked bottle of wine, it comes from this mold called TCA. Have you ever smelled a wine that smells like, I always describe it like this. Have you guys ever been to a Whitewater, like the water park? Or Six Flags, like the water rides, they smell like that weird kind of like that smell of water or like old water. They'll tell you, the textbook will say wet newspaper or cardboard, but basically it's this mold that lives in the cork that will infect the rest of the bottle. And it's not harmful or anything, but I kind of like, is at the Sports Center, I want to start adding some of those. When I give you guys a fact, I want like a little update like that. Da-na-na.
You know what I mean? Muted.
It was not Bobby, yeah. I don't know who it was. We're gonna have to get to the bottom of it. We're gonna have to figure this out because there's points to be taken away from somebody. We're gonna have to get to the bottom.
There you go.
All right, but yeah, so cork taint is a very serious problem, right? And it can uh-oh, I'm hearing myself again. Can y'all can tell I don't like the sound of my own voice. So when I hear myself back a few seconds later, it throws me off my game. We're gonna do the next one of these in person, maybe. But cork taint can affect something like 6% of wines, which is crazy. But if you have a bad one, sometimes it won't even hit it enough to where it's not like a big slap in the face, but it can just kind of kill the fruit flavor. So that's also a real bad problem. To fix this, back in the 90s, maybe 80s, they came out with these little synthetic cork closures. You guys have seen these, right? They're made out of plastic compounds. So the whole idea here is you can still have the pageantry of opening a bottle with a wine key, but you won't have TCA, right? To me, I'm like, why not just, I'm not a fan of these things. They're dumb because now you have to have a wine key. Why not just have a Stelvin cap, right? I feel like more people are okay with screw caps. Do you guys feel that way?
Yeah.
I think it's changing a little bit. I'm not a fan of this, but I don't know. That's just me. Then we got our Stelvin. It's an aluminum material that threads onto the bottleneck. And I'm getting a lot of reverb. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start muting some people until, hold on. There's it coming from. And oh, maybe that's it. Does that sound better? Well, I muted everybody, so. But just chime in when you're ready. Sorry, that was I'm too ADD for that. All right, so big usage in Australia and New Zealand. In fact, it's really, you very rarely see corks at all. Even the really high-end bottles in Australia and New Zealand, they usually use the Stelvin. And the kind of cool thing there, they realized, and now it's been 30 or 40 years, they put their wines in the cellar with the Stelvin. And so it's really anaerobic. There's no oxygen going to it at all. And it's actually slowed down the cellaring process a bunch. So they think it's even better to have just a Stelvin versus a cork. All right, it can maintain a wine's overall quality and aging and no risk of TCA. And then our good buddy, Jerry B, Bertrand, loves this little glass stopper with an inner O-ring, right? Glass closures. It's kind of expensive though. And how do you guys feel about this thing? I think it looks cool, but it's hard to open, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of hard to open. I think it's worth it because it looks cool, but that's just one of the disadvantages to me. And then no risk of TCA contamination. All right, any questions thus far? Closures is pretty easy stuff, right? Carolina, do you have a question?
Yeah.
What you got?
You can hear me?
I can, we're good.
Okay. I didn't know if I was muted or not. No, my question to you is sometimes when you buy a bottle of wine, how would you, because you can't put the cork back, and I know it sounds like a dumb question, but I have had wines that I feel like they taste different after you can't put the thing back in there and you leave it without it.
For sure, yeah. So that's in how long you mean when you're not?
Like you just put it in your fridge and you leave it there for a couple of days. Even with the screw, like I've had Arbor Mist before, and it just tastes different. It doesn't taste like it was when you first try it and then you open the bottle.
Yeah.
Mine got in about like 4 days, 4 to 5 days, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So basically what'll happen, the moment oxygen starts touching wine, it oxidizes it, right? And there are things that'll slow it down, like putting in the fridge is a good thing, right? That'll slow it down a little bit. Keeping your screw cap on or your cork in there will slow it down because it's not as much oxygen. But the worst thing you could do for it would be to put it, like let's say you had wine in a glass, an aerated wine glass, and you leave it overnight at room temperature. The next day it already tastes bad, right? And that's because you got all that oxygen hitting it it's, so it oxidizes it quickly. And oxygen is an enemy of wine, right? To an extent. If you get too much, then it's going to oxidize and it tastes flat, right? It changes the composition, right?
It does.
So that's the thing with it. So the best thing to do really is cork it, even your red wines, cork it and put it in the fridge if you're trying to keep it longer.
Or just drink it all.
Or yes, we never have that problem in my household. We just we never have leftover. So there's that.
Hey, but Connor, there is something that you can get that'll take the air out of the bottle that can stay on top of it, that you can put it in the fridge.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Corvin. Yeah, I have one. So the Corvin,
Yeah.
where it puts in the argon gas, so it kind of separates the oxygen from the wine.
Yep. Rick and Corey, you both get a point. Yeah, the Corvin is really cool, and then they also have that that stuff you can just, I think it's argon gas too. You can actually just pump into a bottle without the Corvin's cool. It drills in, and you steal it and replaces it with gas. Where'd you go, Corey? Yes, where's your name?
I'm Team Hodgepodge.
Yeah, why can't I find you?
I don't know.
Oh, that's weird. I printed it out and I can't see it. Anyway, but yeah, so the Corvin is like $200 though, but you can just buy the gas you can throw in there that'll keep oxygen off of it. It's a good question. Carolina, you get a question too you get a point for the question.
Thanks.
Of course. All right, let's talk about service. So a bottle of wine contains 25.3 ounces, right? And a lot of red wine glasses can contain up to, this one probably will hold 17 ounces, right? But so we're obviously not going to want to fill it up to the top. This is some real basic stuff. But the whole point for red wine glasses is often to let it aerate, right? To add oxygen, because you kind of want to add oxygen at the very beginning to kind of let some aromas release. You want to hold the bottle with the label facing outward, and usually don't want to hold like this, right? Because your hand will warm up the wine unless you're trying to do that. Let's talk about various glass styles, right? Has anyone heard of the company Riedel?
Yes.
Corey's got one right there. Jimmy has heard of them. So they make a different wine glass for, I think it's at least 25 different grape style wine glasses at this point, maybe a lot more. And they have, tried to prove that there's a scientific difference in the way we perceive different grapes, and they've tried to optimize for each grape. So that, because the shape will affect how the vapors will really hit your nose, right? All right. So there's some kind of basic things to know here. It kind of depends on what you want to highlight. So with white wines, we usually make them smaller bowls. You've never ever noticed that red wine glasses are bigger, white wine glasses are smaller. The reason we do that is we want to preserve floral aromas. They do better contained in a smaller environment, right? Red wines are usually bigger and like a little bit wider. Does anyone want to take a guess why that is? We kind of already mentioned it.
You want more oxygen on the surface level.
There you go.
Yes, Rick. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's good for aerating, right? Or aromas are released, and especially when you have something like a higher tannin wine, right? It'll help release a lot of those, kind of soften the wine as well. And then sparkling wine glasses are a little bit usually narrower, right? And that helps with effervescence, with bubbles. Dessert wine glasses, we usually like them smaller because, well, to limit the portion, right? And I don't really know anybody, I'd be a type 2 diabetic if I'm drinking 9 ounces of Quinta du Portal port, you know what I mean? Okay, any questions here? I know you guys are like, when is it drinking time? I'm getting thirsty. He said we're gonna have a drink and it's 4:37, what the hell? We're getting there. We gotta talk about temperature first. So, you don't want to serve your white wine too cold or your red wine too warm, right? Wine tastes better, slightly cool, no matter what. Floral aromatics are subdued when it's really cold, right? And they burn off when it's too warm. If you've ever had a really crappy well vodka, right, at the bar, how do they serve it to you?
Ice cold.
Ice cold, right? Because nobody wants to taste that, right? If you ever have to sell a bad vodka, what would you do? I would get it ice cold, so no one has to taste that mess, right? The opposite for red wines, if you ever accidentally left them in the car too long in the summer or something and served it hot, no go, no good. It'll taste like bourbon going down your throat, right? Heat will really affect the way alcohol is perceived. I actually live by the 30-30 rule, especially when I was showing wine in the market. Has anyone heard of the 30-30 rule?
Mm-mm.
No.
So this is my little rule, and I do this at home too. But I put my reds in the fridge 30 minutes before serving. I usually take my whites out of the fridge more like 20 minutes before serving. You just don't want them really, really cold. I don't know what this little L sep is supposed to be. What the heck is that? That used to be a picture of something, but it has made, the moment I started doing that when tasting customers, that changed everything. Getting your reds down to cellar temp. Try this the next time you have a bottle of red. Throw it in your fridge and taste it. Actually, pour a little glass and then stick it in the fridge. Wait 20 or 30 minutes, pour another, and taste them side by side and see which one you prefer. I almost universally like the cellar temperature ones a little bit better. Speaking of cellar temperature, this is not anything you need to memorize or know, but this is just for your reference, right? That sparkling wines can get the most cold. Get those as cold as possible, right? Because of a sparkling wine is less, it's not as cold as it should be. You get tons of bubbles, right? Tons of fizz. So you can get as cold as you want. Light to medium to fuller bodied whites, 45 to 50, 50 to 55. We just have one little chiller that I put both reds and whites in and keep it at 55. Right? I like them cold. Okay, storage. See, we're going through all the boring stuff, and then we'll get to drink and talk about the wines. But we gotta talk about cellaring and such. Heat is the number one enemy of wine, right? It loves wines that are being stored love consistency. They don't want vibrations. Light is no good. High humidity is better. And we want to lay down our wine. Does anyone want to raise a hand and tell me why we want to lay the wine down?
I think if you have a cork in the bottle, it keeps it moist.
That's 100% right. That's a point to Team Bordeaux band. Yeah, exactly. So you want to keep liquid on the cork. Now, like in an account or something, if the wine's standing up, it's not going to be a problem. But if you do it for a few years, that cork will dry out. And the moment that cork dries out, if it's standing up, it'll crack and oxygen gets through, and then it's not a good situation. Also, don't shake your bottle. I don't know why this needs to be on here. I didn't author this slide, but apparently this is a thing that needs to be told to people. Don't shake your bottle. Pretty crazy. Okay. Any questions on storage or anything? All right. We can basically, for our purposes during this class, we're going to talk about 5 categories of wine: sparkling, white, rosé, red, and dessert. Today, we're going to cover these 3, which is ambitious. Let's talk about sparkling wines. If you guys want, go ahead and pour your Nicholas Foyat in the first glass, and then your Villa Sandy next to it. S'il vous plaît. All right, I'm going to do the same. I'm not going to read you the Wikipedia definition. It's basically wine with bubbles in it, right? Okay. All right. So, give you all a second to get those poured. All right, so when we are making wine, right? It's the very basic level. We got sugars in the grape, right? In the must. Our yeast eats it, and the output is alcohol and CO2, right? Now, what normally happens if you've been to a winery? What normally happens to that CO2 if you're making just a still wine?
They have a blow off and just goes.
Yeah,
into
who
the
said
air.
that? There he is, Corey. Yeah, it just evaporates into the air, right? It's an open vat, right? And so just all those bubbles go out, right? So the idea with sparkling wine is to catch that CO2 and keep it in the bottle somehow, right? And there are two main ways we do that. We can either do it in the bottle, we can ferment a second time in the bottle, or we can do it in the tank. We can capture that CO2 in the tank. So what we have in front of us, the two different bottles today, this is bottle fermentation, the Nicholas Foyat champagne, and Villa Sandy is tank sparkling wine fermentation, right? Secondary fermentation. So let's talk about that real quick. So, and we call this the bottle fermentation, traditional method. We sometimes call it the champagne method or méthode champenoise. You'll see that like on, you might see it, what does it say on Foyat here? Just says champagne.
Corbel has it on it.
Corbel says champenoise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this because it says champagne, you know it has to be the champagne method. You can't make champagne without the champagne method. So here's the way it works. You've got a base wine. It's usually a lower ABV, higher acid base wine, right? It's usually a 9 or 10% ABV. You add sugar and yeast to that to create a second fermentation in the bottle, right? So you've already made a wine. You add a little bit of sugar and yeast to the bottle, and then it starts a second fermentation in the bottle. Now, what happens there is you're creating a little more ABV, like 3% ABV. So that 10% ABV wine you had becomes 12.5%. And it also has bubbles, right? You capture the bubbles inside of the bottle, right? What then will happen with wines like this, the yeast will die. It'll run out of sugar. You add a little sugar in there and it runs out of it. And so they die, right? So then you're aging this bottle on these lees, which are dead yeast cells, and it gives it an interesting kind of flavor, right? And then we disgorge them. So what'll happen is when you add the sugar and yeast this first time here, you're putting like a Coca-Cola crown cap on it, right? And then he goes through second fermentation, the yeast die, and then you disgorge it. So the way that works is we freeze the top part of that wine. We've got these bottles, we got these upside down. And so all that yeast that dies is collecting down here at the bottom. Then we're going to super freeze them, turn them over, and pop out that little ice cube of frozen yeast. It's called disgorging it, right? Well, now we've got a bottle of champagne and it's ready to go, but we lost some of that juice, right? Some of that wine that came out when we disgorged it. So then we add what's called the dosage. All right, and that's where we add a little bit more wine to top it up. And then we add we can decide how sweet we want it at this point, right? So you don't have to add any sweetness if you want, but you could add a little bit of sweeter wine to make it sweet. Does that make sense? We're covering a lot in a very short period of time in one slide. we could talk about this for 3 days to really learn it, but it's just kind of bird's eye view what's going on. Okay. Any questions? Then we've got, in contrast, we've got the tank method, like this Villa Sandy, right? So once again, we've got this dry base wine that's, 8 to 10% ABV, high acid. We put it in a sealed pressurized tank. So instead of putting it in a bottle, we just put it in a big stainless steel tank. And then we add our yeast and sugar for a second fermentation in the tank. All right. So now that yeast is doing its thing. It's eating that little bit of sugar we had left. And the big difference here is we filter that yeast out after it's done. Now, why would we do, and then we bottle it. And then we have dry sparkling wine like Prosecco. Why would we filter out that yeast? It's not a trick question. It's more of a style question, right? So in Champagne method, we like to taste. So we think the yeast adds really interesting flavors, right? And aromas. It can make it kind of biscuity and bready, right? That's what people will say. Whereas Prosecco, the whole idea of Prosecco is you're trying to make something really fresh and aromatic. And so the yeast will change that. So what you're trying to do, as soon as that yeast eats all the sugar, we filter it out of there. So Villa Sandy, that's the whole thing, is this is not very old, right? This is the whole idea with Prosecco. You want to make it really fresh, really crisp, bright, aromatic, ready to go, right? Whereas Champagne, this has been aged for several years before you get it, because you're trying to show off some of those aging notes. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Any questions there? And then we've got our tank method, but we call this the Asti method. Have you heard of Moscato d'Asti, right? This is the Asti method. The big difference here, what's different from how you start in this one?
It's not already wine.
You don't start with a base wine.
It's just grape juice.
Yeah, thanks, John. Where'd you go, John? Oh, you're a sea shanty, that's right. Yeah, we start with grape juice as opposed to starting with a base wine. We put it in a sealed pressurized tank. We add yeast. Then we're starting our first fermentation. But then we get about like 5.5%, 6% alcohol, and we stop it. We chill it down. And we filter out that yeast. Why would we do that? What's the result?
Keep sugar in the wine.
Yeah.
The yeast doesn't eat all the sugar.
Yeah, exactly. If you let it just go all the way, it would be 11 or 12% alcohol, right? Because that yeast would eat all the sugar. But instead, you stop it, you cool it down, and then you've got a sweet wine. If you have Moscato d'Asti, that's how it is. And then you bottle it under pressure. And now you got a sweet sparkling wine. You get a little residual sugar left over. Why don't we go ahead and taste the Prosecco, sorry, the Nicholas Foyat first. Taste it right next to the Villa Sandy. How are they different?
They're very different.
Are they good different or bad different? Which one do you prefer?
I like the Prosecco.
Oh, I like the Nicholas Foy.
Yeah, I like the Foyat.
Yeah. Who did Kennedy, was that you that said you like the Foyat?
Yeah.
So there's no wrong answer because I love them both. I think that Villa Sandy makes a really good Prosecco and Nicholas Foyat makes a really good Champagne, but the styles are different, right?
Definitely.
So what are we tasting in that Champagne that's a little different? You taste, sometimes you taste Champagne, you go, oh, wow, that's really yeasty. It tastes kind of like yeast, right?
One tastes a little lighter to me.
This one tastes lighter.
I think one has more carbonation is what it seemed like, unless it's just me. I don't know.
Do you think the Prosecco has more carbonation?
No,
You think
Yeah,
it's
the
OEI?
one.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And so the bubbles are a lot different too, right? And they have two different methods of doing it, where the Prosecco can taste like kind of light, fluffy bubbles, right? Pretty interesting. So do you think one has more, we talk about primary fruit flavors, which are like things that happen in the grape, like fruits, basically fruit aromas. Is one fruitier than the other?
Just different.
I'm not a
fruits.
wine drinker, but I'd say the Prosecco tastes fruitier.
I agree.
Good, John.
Yeah. Points all around. Yeah. So, and it's not always that way. Sometimes champagne is a little fruitier, but usually champagne, they're trying to show off the aging, right? That they've been aging this thing for a couple of years on the lees, which are the dead yeast cells, right? And the wine changes with time. Whereas Prosecco, this one, Villa Sandy, what they do is they literally freeze the must, and then they wait until the US places an order, until we place an order, and then they make it to order because they want it to be really, really fresh, right? So it's just a different style. That's why if I'm making mimosas, I use Prosecco, right? Because you don't want to, you kind of want the fresh fruitiness in with the mimosa. You don't want to waste all that yeastiness in a mimosa, I think. Just one man's opinion. All right, y'all keep sipping as I tell you about where we're making this, right? So the most famous place for sparkling wine in the world is Champagne. It is made from Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Pinot Meunier, right? You can mix all of these together. And then this is really important. If you see the word Cremant, does anyone know what that means?
It's a French sparkling, not from the region of Champagne.
Yeah, exactly. That's a point to Corey. Yeah, it just means they follow the Champagne method 100%, but they're not from Champagne. So it'll say Cremant de Loire. Cremant de Bourgogne is how it'll read on a label, not Burgundy. It'll say it in French. And then do you guys recognize this one, Limoux? We've got a wine that we sell a lot of Cremant de Limoux. A lot in the on-premise and some in independent retail. So Gerard Bertrand makes their sparkling Cremant, and it's Cremant de Limoux. I don't know, do we have a lot of presence in chain with it? They might.
No.
They don't make a ton, so most of it ends up going on premise. But it's really good. If you ever see it, get it, because it's also kind of cheap. It's like $15 and it's really good. Okay, so these are all our traditional methods. And then if you ever heard of cava in Spain, cava is also traditional method. So it's Champagne method. Okay, let's move on now to the number one spot for tank fermented sparkling wines, which is the Veneto, right? And where we make Prosecco. So the grape is Glera. And we like to keep it fruity and fresh, like myself. And then we've got Moscato d'Asti. We talked about the Asti method, which is made pretty much the number one place in the world it's made is in the Piedmont region, right, of Italy, Northwest Italy, Moscato d'Asti. The grape is Muscat or Moscato, right? Sweet, fruity, floral, lightly sparkling. Any questions there? Cool. So we measure them by levels of sweetness though, right? So I'm going right now from driest to sweetest. So Brut Nature is the absolute driest, right? You're adding nothing to it. We got Extra Brut. Brut is the number one selling style right here. Then we have Extra Dry, which is actually a little sweeter than Brut. And then Sec, which means dry in French, and Demi-Sec. And then Doux, which means sweet. Now, this has always confused me, right? Because you're like, why the heck does the word sec mean dry, and it's actually 2 levels sweeter than brut. And the reason it is, and it's kind of silly, but about 200 years ago, there were just these 3 categories, right? There was sec, demi-sec, and doux. So doux was the sweet, demi-sec was really still pretty sweet, and sec, their normal dry, was still kind of sweet. Like if you try sec next to brut, you're like, whoa, that's sweet. But what happened is the British kept on wanting drier stuff. So they said, okay, we got sec, all right. Why don't we make you extra dry? All right, so it's even drier than sec, right? But people wanted more dry. So they said, okay, why don't we make you something even drier than extra dry, and we'll call it brut, right? And then this one always reminds me of like Mountain Dew Code Red or something. Extra brut, right? It's extra. And then we got Brut Nature, which is just nothing added at all. Does that make any sense?
It does.
So now when you see Brut, I mean, Brut's the #1 style. That's what you guys sell the most of, I'm assuming, right?
Mhm.
It's really, really dry. But I always used to get that mixed up because I'm like, why shouldn't extra dry be drier than Brut?
It is
Well,
funny.
That's
Try
because
to explain
brute
it to
means
people in
raw
school.
in French, I would imagine.
What'd you say, John?
Because brute means raw in French.
Oh, I like that. Okay. Yeah. I was described that way as well. Brute, raw, crazy. Soft, fruity, and brute.
It is funny when people are like Christmas time when people are picking up champagnes and they don't know which one to get, and you explain it to them and their eyes kind of glaze over, like what the hell?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, they could have labeled it a little bit easier, I feel like. This is ridiculous, right? Dang French. When we love them, but come on. Apologies if anyone's French on the call. I don't know. I'm like scanning for last names now. Like, oh crap, who am I? Offend anybody? Okay, any questions here? All right, we've already tasted. We already got ahead of ourselves. We're already tasting these wines, but so now, and a lot of you, I know you all tasted these before, but it's kind of cool to see them side by side because you can say when someone asks you at an account, like, what's the difference here? How is Prosecco different from Champagne? Well, you can say it's fruitier, it's a little more aromatic. Usually, it's fresh, right? Or Champagne, you're tasting the age, in not a bad way, in a good way. Okay, let's see here. We're at 5 o'clock. Do we need, do you want to take a 4-minute bathroom break?
We can just keep going and finish 4 minutes early.
Okay, it'll be 5:56. Is that good with you?
That's good with me.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know how long it'll take us today. I just kind of have to pee. So we'll go as long as
go ahead.
until I have to pee. So it'll probably be in a few wines. I got a 3-ounce bladder. They called me 3-ounce back in high school. Call me a lot of things. All right, let's talk about white wine real quick. I think we covered some of this in the video, but we're gonna crush, right? And then we're gonna immediately press, right? Can someone tell me how is this different than red wine?
Not allowing
In
it to sit
pressing,
out.
you don't allow contact with the skin.
Yes, exactly. I think John and Corey were kind of getting there. So remember, we want all that skin contact. We want that maceration with red wines. It's what gives it color. For 99% of the white wine in the world, we want to immediately press the juice off the skins because we're usually going for something that we want to be really fresh and flavorful and aromatic, and we don't need the skins for that necessarily. So now we crush, we press, we've got juice, right? Just grape juice, light grape juice. And then we can ferment. So we've got a lot of options with that too. We could do larger oak, we could do smaller oak barrels. Which of these two would give you more oak flavor? Someone wants to raise their hand.
More surface area.
Yeah.
What Rick said.
Yeah, Rick got it. Yeah, so, well, sorry, so the smaller the barrel though would give you more flavor. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, more surface area.
Perfect, yeah, exactly. So which seems maybe a little counterintuitive, but you have a really big oak barrel, you've got a lot of juice in there that's it's not touching the ratio. What's touching the oak is less than in the smaller ones, where you're getting a lot more influence from the barrel, right? Or you can do stainless steel. If you want something, if you want the freshest style of white wine, you put it in stainless steel, right? Because oak is going to add body and flavor, et cetera, et cetera. So you can ferment in oak or in stainless steel, or you could ferment in stainless steel and then put it in oak. And then you bottle, and then we all sell it. All right. Oops.
Or you could do like some companies do and they add the wood chips to it.
That's true. And I would never disparage any of our brands that do that, because we have a couple that do that as well. That have kept my lights on for several years. So I would never disparage any of these practices. For instance, here, kind of similar to that, you got the staves going on down here, which is a way to add oak flavor, right? Or to Rick's point, you can also throw in oak chips that will just add that flavor. Okay. And so we also say, when we talk about aerobic versus anaerobic aging, right? Aerobic means with oxygen. And oak, that's with oxygen, because a little bit of oxygen is coming through those barrels, right? Versus stainless steel, which nothing is let in. Like here, without oxygen, either in stainless steel or in glass bottle, nothing is being let in. Any questions there? All right, we're just gonna start tasting some white wines, and I want to talk about a few things while we do it, right before we get into them, because there's a couple things I just want to pay attention to while we're tasting, right? One of them would be color, straw, yellow, or gold. I'd like for us to comment on the wines we taste today, whether we think they're closer to straw, yellow, or gold in color. Aromatics, I like to think of them as, are they kind of more neutral in aromatics? Are they moderate, or are they intense? And then acidity, low, moderate, or high. And then the fruits and floral. So is it orchard fruits like apples, or citrus, that grow on trees like lemons and lime? Are they more like stone fruits? And we know what a stone fruit is, right? It's got a pit in it, like a peach or apricot, stone fruits. Or is it tropical, like mangoes, bananas, whatever the hell that thing is down there? What is that?
Maybe a guava?
Might be guava.
Probably guava, yeah.
I think Carolina gets the point. I feel like that's guava.
Those things are delicious.
They are. Well, I don't know. So that one on my screen's not looking so appetizing for some reason, but inside it is. So go ahead and pour the Chardonnay and the Sauvignon Blanc.
Hey, Connor, I have a question.
Yes.
Why did you decide to go with a California style Blanc instead of a New Zealand? Just curious.
Yeah, because we have a 375 milliliter.
Hey, that's a great answer.
Honestly, that's 100% it. It's what we have in small. But I think, are you talking about for the Chardonnay or the Sauvignon Blanc?
For Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, but I think they're both. I mean, I think the Joel Gott's a really good example of California Chardonnay or California Sauvignon Blanc. And we sell a lot of Sauvignon, American Sauvignon Blanc. Okay. So let's talk about, and to go back to that, I want to, this isn't Sutter Home Sweet Riesling's not my number one Riesling choice for us to try, but it is it's a contrast, if anything, right?
Mhm.
Let's talk Chardonnay, and then we're going to compare these two grapes together. But first, let's talk Chardonnay. So Chardonnay is great because it grows almost anywhere. It can grow in really cool climates like Chablis. It can grow in kind of moderate climates in certain places in California, like Russian River. It can grow in really warm climates like in Australia or the Central Valley in California, right? And they can all be really different. And the acidity and et cetera can vary with climate. But the big thing is winemakers really love Chardonnay because there's a lot you can do with it, right? So Chardonnay, you can put it in oak. Chardonnay and oak love each other, right? You've had an oaky Chardonnay, you're about to drink one. Malolactic fermentation. I think that might be my next slide. And maybe in a couple slides. You can do malolactic fermentation. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then you can do lees aging, like we were talking about in Champagne, which is adding all sorts of different flavors. So let's talk about the climatic influences though, right? And this is kind of cool because just in general, this happens a lot. Where when you're in a cooler climate, the acidity is usually higher. And you get a lot of orchard fruits and kind of greener fruits and citruses, right? Whereas when you go to a little warmer climate and a moderate climate, you get citrus, stone fruit, and tropical. Versus a warm climate, things get more tropical, right? And do you see what's happening here with the acidity from cool to warm climates? It's dropping, right? And I want to make sure we realize why that's happening, right? So when you're a berry, you're a grape, right? And you're trying to ripen. If you're in a cooler climate, so when you start off as a berry, if you were to pick one in springtime, a berry, or in the early summer, and you take a bite of it, has anyone ever done that in a vineyard before it's really ready?
Hey, Connor.
Yes.
Jimmy had a question about what makes a chard buttery.
Great
that's
question.
just the malolactic fermentation, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
The bacteria.
Yep. We'll get into that in a slide, but you get a point for that question. So we'll get into that in just a second. Great question. But yeah, if anyone's ever been to the vineyard and let's call it June, right? And you pick a berry, it's super tart, right? And a lot of acid. As it gets riper, it starts getting sweeter, right? Because that's what happens. So the acid level always starts up here and sugar is down here. And as it warms up, it's more like this. It's more like sugar up here and acid down here, right? In cooler climates, the acid stays up here and the sugar's right here. That's how you harvest them. When you get to warmer climates, the sugar's more up here and the acid lowers. That makes sense? So you get more sugar in the warmer climates. So you usually have higher alcohol because you got more sugar you can do and lower acidity. Whereas in cool climates, you have higher acidity and lower ABV.
Is that why 19 Crimes is 16% alcohol?
That is exactly why 19 Crimes, because it comes from hot as shit Australia, right? I mean, that's why it is. Versus, well, let's see, what's ABV on the Joel got? 13.9. Okay,
that's high.
That's kind of high. So that's California. California, they're sourcing this from kind of warmer spots. But versus, let's say, a Paso Robles Cab. Paso is a much warmer area than Sonoma, let's say. So Paso Cab or Zinfandel versus Behringer Nights Valley is still going to be, Behringer wouldn't have a good amount of ABV, but it's going to be 15 plus in Paso, and it might be 14 in Sonoma or other places. So let's go into winemaking techniques to Jimmy's point, right? Where's that butter come from? It comes from malolactic conversion, malolactic fermentation, right? And what you're doing here is you're changing malic acid, which is the thing that tastes like green apples, into lactic acid, which is milky. It's a milk acid. So you get all these flavors of butter and cream. Now, the classic California Chardonnay style is like all of these things turned up, right? It's Lees contact. We were talking about dead yeast cells, and you can basically, we'll do it on barrels, right? You'll see, you'll oak age your Chardonnay, and then you let those, when those yeasts die, you just let them hang out in the barrels. And so you get all these things. So that's what I'm saying. If you're with Chardonnay, you're a winemaker, you got this blank canvas. You can do mallow, you can age it on the lees, you can put it on oak, or you don't have to do any of that. It could be completely unoaked and completely different wine, right? Like a Chablis. Who's heard of Chablis? We've all heard of it, right? They're delicious. They usually don't do any of this stuff. Some of the Grand Cru do and the Premier Cru do, but a lot of you just see something with Chablis. None of this is happening. It's just Chardonnay straight up, or diatom Chardonnay. That one that we have is nothing interfered with it. And it's completely different than, say, a La Crema Chardonnay or KJ or something like that, right? So let's go ahead and taste this KJ. Can you taste the oak on this and a little bit of the mallow? You can, right? It tastes a bit woody. It tastes a little buttery. And I don't know that they're aging on the lees with this one. I'm not sure, but definitely oak and mallow, right? And then let's see. I would call that like, yellow apples or something, a lot of orchard fruits. What do we think?
Good.
Not my
Pretty
thing.
Carolina says 2 thumbs down, but we would never disparage it. I know you wouldn't, Carolina, because it pays our bills too. And this is a really good product too. They have their own, they make their own barrels. I mean, it's usually French oak. It's pretty impressive for the amount they make, et cetera, et cetera. And as you all know, a lot of people love the style. Now,
Hey, Connor,
yes.
the interesting thing is that if you've been with United for a little while, you would know that like Turning Leaf and a bunch of other brands came out when KJ came out. And they all started pretty much at the same price level. And over time, some of those other brands dropped to $8.99, $7.99, $6.99, and then they fell off completely.
Yeah.
KJ has just gone straight up in price.
Yeah.
That just tells you that the quality and the type of wine that it is, that people love it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because people were trying to kind of race to the bottom, right? Let's make it cheap. If we're $2 less than KJ, if we're $8.99, maybe we can get them. But no, the quality's not there because they're using real oak. They're using, speaking of people using oak chips and stuff, that's the Turning Leaves of the world. They're cutting corners, and they might make
all copy it. They're all trying to figure out how to beat it.
Yeah, for cheap. And the problem is you can't make what KJ does, and I'll get off my Jackson family high horse here in a minute, but you can't make what they're making for that cost without the assets they have. They own a lot of land. They own a French forest that they get wood from, and they have a cooperage, which is crazy.
Hey, Connor, A+ use there, by the way.
Of which one?
The meme is fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much. You guys follow shitty wine memes on Instagram?
I don't, but I should.
You need to. It's really funny. All right. So now let's talk about real quick before we get into Sauvignon Blanc. Let's talk about where we're making Chardonnay. Can anyone tell me the ancestral home of Chardonnay, the most famous place for it in the world?
Burgundy, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that Corey?
Yeah.
Yeah, Burgundy. Burgundy is, if you see a white wine and it says Burgundy or Bourgogne on it, and we'll get into that next session, it's Chardonnay, right? It's where Pinot Noir is from as well. Champagne, we also grow a lot of Chardonnay in Champagne. And then the Pays d'Oc, where Gerard Bertrand is making wine. A lot of Chardonnay. But really, and here are some of ours, a couple of our brands, Moyard, This is one in Italy, Bramito. Here's a Chablis, and then a Pouilly-Fuissé, which is also a Chardonnay. And then when we say a Chardonnay growing regions of the New World, it's everywhere pretty much, because everywhere makes Chardonnay, can grow everywhere. And real quick, I know you guys know this, but I just wanted to point out, because someone in one of my other classes didn't quite catch it, and I feel I need to put a slide in. But when we talk about Old World, we're talking about Europe, right? Versus New World, which is everywhere else. And one of the biggest differences is the Old World will label things by the area, like Champagne, right? Or Burgundy. They'll put Bourgogne. Moyard is cool enough to put Chardonnay under there, but they don't have to. They're just doing this for Americans, right? Or non-French people. But if you were to look at this Pouilly-Fuissé, this bottle, and you see that it's white, there's nothing that tells you it's Chardonnay on there, except that it's from Pouilly-Fuissé, which you have to, if you want to put that on the bottle, it has to be Chardonnay, right? Another reason we love the French, right? Making it all easy for us. Whereas in the New World, almost everyone would put Chardonnay on the label. And here are some of ours, of course. Any questions on Chardonnay? I wanted to just take a second. What do we think about the color? Is it straw yellow to gold?
Yellow.
I thought it was strong.
I like the yellow call.
I'm partially colorblind, so don't ask me.
I was gonna say yellow.
It's somewhere in the middle, right? It's somewhere I feel like in the middle. What about the aromatics? When I say aromatic, I don't necessarily mean oak. I mean fruit. Are the fruits more neutral, moderate, or intense?
Moderate.
Moderate.
Yeah, moderate, right? Maybe neutral. If we're just talking fruit. Now, if we're talking oak and stuff, that's a little different. Now, the way we taste for acidity, this is really useful. So what you're going to do here is take a big sip and get it underneath your tongue. Really get it underneath your tongue. And then pay attention to how much mouth watering you do, how much you salivate after you have that sip. So the more you salivate, the more acidity the wine has. So pay a lot of attention to that.
I would I think because I just drooled a lot.
That's right. If it takes you to drool school, I say, then it's got high acidity. This one, let's see, I'll call it moderate.
Ugh.
I was gonna say moderate.
Carolina's dying over there.
That stuff is just nasty.
Let's leave that out of our presentation.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
Yes, for
Carolina,
sure.
we need you not to write any shelf talkers for us, please. All right. And then fruits and flora. I think we talked orchard, maybe some stone fruits, right? All right, let's go to Sauvignon Blanc. So these are really good wines to taste side by side too, right? Because they're really different.
Are you at work
I am, yeah.
and you're driving after that?
He's
This
only
is my
sipping.
This is my spit cup.
Yeah.
Also, 2 or 3 ounces of wine will do nothing to me, sadly, with this tolerance I have. I could hang in there with this whole thing.
I think it's got a straw color.
Nice.
Get some pretzels.
There we go. Pretzel time. Yeah, but compare the color of these two. If you still have some KJ in your other glass.
Yeah, I would definitely say this one is more straw, and then the KJ is more yellow, but not by much.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin. A point there. Where'd you go, Justin? There you are. Sea shanty. Yeah, right. It's a little more straw. And then what about would you call it aromatic, aromatically neutral, intense, or moderate?
Neutral.
Pretty neutral.
Neutral.
So in general, Sauvignon Blanc are supposed to be really aromatic. Think about like New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, how fruity that is. It jumps out at you. This one's a little more restrained, I think, but normally Sauvignon Blanc has a lot of aromatics coming off of it. Let's check the acidity for me.
I think it's low.
Low.
So I don't know. I'm salivating more than
Are you?
before.
More than the KJ, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is moderate plus, or not quite high, but moderate plus. It's got some good acid. A little bit about it. So usually cooler or moderate climates, usually high in acidity, especially like in France and in New Zealand. US versions can sometimes be a little more moderate. They're generally best drunk young, usually not as good in the cellar, because what we're trying to highlight for the most part is all the aromatics. Let's talk about the ripeness here. When we're least ripe, so would this be a cool climate or a warm climate?
Least would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Cool climate up here. You get some vegetal stuff, green pepper, asparagus. Moving on to citrus and gooseberry. And when they get really ripe, you might get some tropical fruits and stone fruits. All right, in France, where we're talking about mainly, the most famous place probably for Sauvignon Blanc in the world is Sancerre, if you've heard of Sancerre. That's really delicious Sauvignon Blanc from France. Also, Pouilly-Fumé, right next door. The way that we remember this is, Robert Mondavi Fumé Blanc. Have you ever seen that around? Or any Fumé Blanc? Has anyone seen that around? I know Rick has.
Yeah.
So Fumé Blanc is what basically Robert Mondavi decided to steal this name, Pouilly-Fumé, and put Fumé in front of Blanc because Sauvignon Blanc was getting a bad name in California, right? So he started rebranding it. He called it Fumé Blanc. Anyway, Sauvignon Blanc grows really well here in the Loire Valley. It grows really well in Bordeaux. It's the great white grape of Bordeaux. Grows really well down here in the Pays d'Oc. And that's it for France. And then it grows almost anywhere else that's cool enough, and literally and figuratively, in the New World. So we kind of already went through this, right? We were kind of house divided, I feel like, but this one was kind of straight down the middle, moderate. I thought it had a moderate plus or higher acidity and some aromatics. Which do you guys prefer? Do you guys like this one?
I like the KJ better.
I like the KJ
Yeah.
better too.
I like the KJ better. I feel like that one leaves a different taste in your mouth for Sauvignon
Yeah.
Blanc.
I like the
Yeah.
Sauv Blanc.
Joel, you like the Sauv Blanc?
Yeah, it's a little more palatable to me.
Yeah. I wonder if tasting them in different order would be different, because we might still have the kind of oaky on our palates. But either way, I think they're both good. Okay, here's the deal. You guys pour the Pinot Grigio and the Riesling while I go pee, and I'll be back in 4 minutes. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
You drink yours already?
Me, no.
These are my glasses right now.
Your video's not on.
Yeah, we can.
They're big.
Your video's not on.
There you go. I see you now.
And John, see? Glasses.
Nice. I've got a red glass and a white glass, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Like another 30 minutes.
Mm. Mhm. Did you get with Pearson about your bottles yet, Jimmy?
Of course not.
Ben says he's not talking to Pearson for you until you give him the itinerary.
Dude, when you see him, like Jimmy emailed you the itinerary to him, and I CC'd him.
I don't know, man.
Oh, are you here right now?
Yo, what's up?
Did you get the itinerary email that I sent you recently?
Yeah.
All right, tell Ben to suck it.
Does it have the updated buyers?
Yeah, it had
Drink it.
on there. It should be good to go.
I wish we were trying sweet wines, like
You're-
really sweet wines, because all this
Yeah,
stuff,
Riesling.
it might taste nice to some people, but it's intense for me.
So,
I
so you
don't
like
like-
Moscatos?
You got
Yeah.
this Riesling coming up.
Hey, we'll be trying the Riesling. You'll like the
Let's say-
Riesling.
Carolina, you're in luck.
She's gonna drink a bottle.
I
You're
got
in
a
luck, my
question for you,
friend.
Connor.
What was that?
I got a question for you.
What you got?
I know we don't sell small Pinot Gris, but if we did, which do you prefer, Gris or Grigio?
Oh, so that's a good question. So I kind of I have that canned answer that I like everything at a different time, but I love Pinot Gris. Pinot
Just because
Grigio,
it's kind of sweeter.
yeah, or fatter, I guess, kind of body.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's more tropical flavor than yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So on a hot day, like outside, I'll do Pinot Grigio, but usually I think I would prefer Pinot Gris.
Okay.
I like them both though. I mean, Pinot Grigio is kind of, I always call it the vodka of wine, right? It just kind of a little
Yeah.
one note, it's just, and I like that sometimes, but Pinot Gris got more going on, I think. You prefer Pinot Gris than you're saying?
I prefer whiskey, so
Thanks.
I guess between the two, probably Gris.
Nice
Yeah.
glass hot summer day, John.
Little mowing the lawn with a little glass of whiskey in your hand, right?
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Speaking of, what a great segue into the next slide
All right,
here,
look at that.
because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. Pinot Gris versus Grigio, right? So Pinot Grigio tends to be, like we we're saying, dry, higher acid, light to medium bodied, and neutral, versus Pinot Gris, which is more full bodied and has a lot of tropical notes, right? Literally what John just was saying. So John, you should get a point, I feel like.
No.
We'll get you a point. And here's kind of a next level question that I'd be very impressed. Why do you think, so this, they're the same grape?
They are. So Pinot Gris is Italian. Pinot Grigio is French. Well, Italian style, French style. Or backwards. Sorry, Gris is French. Yeah.
But there are things that we do differently for these two, even though they're the exact same grape. We do things differently. Let me ask it this way. Which one of these do you think they intentionally harvest earlier?
Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio, right?
Yeah.
Because they'll basically harvest Pinot Grigio in northeastern Italy in right now in August, right? It's time to harvest almost. Whereas Pinot Gris, which it originally originated in Alsace, which is eastern France, there's a little rain shadow. The Vosges mountain range creates this rain shadow. So it's like a desert, like Washington State is. Have you ever heard of the Washington State stuff? So they can pick, because there's no rain, they can just leave them hanging there for longer. So they'll pick them in late September, October in Alsace. And that's a whole extra month of ripening, right?
Yeah.
What does that do? More alcohol, more sugar. So more alcohol and gives you more tropical fruit. and some other things going. Now, when you see an American wine label, if it says Pinot Gris on it, it's probably, they're trying to indicate what style they're going to be, right? So you see most Oregon makes Pinot Gris in this style versus there's not that many American Pinot Grigio producers, but Luna is one of ours, or there's, a couple others that they would be more in a dry, kind of more refreshing style. So, and so for instance, our 14 Hands can, I mean, they didn't have to label it Pinot Grigio. They could have labeled it Pinot Gris, but they were trying to make it a certain style. They're indicating to us that they're trying to make it like a Pinot Grigio, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Let's taste that Pinot Grigio. Let's talk about the color too. What color are you guys getting on this guy?
Gold for sure.
Oh, it's gonna be
Yellow.
Yellow, yeah. Yellow gold, okay. What about the aromatics? Neutral, moderate, or intense?
Intense, at least for me. Very strong.
What does it
Neutral.
smell? Yeah, what does it smell like? Does it smell like fruits, or is it aluminum?
No, to me, it just smells like alcohol. It doesn't smell like fruits.
So when I'm asking for aromatics, I'm talking fruits, basically.
No, I don't smell fruits.
So it's probably a little more neutral to moderate.
Yeah, I'd say neutral.
What about the acidity? Is it low, moderate, or high? How much is it? Is it taking you to drool school or not so much?
High.
Higher?
Yeah, higher.
Yeah, which is good for Pinot Grigio usually, because I'm having this at Sweetwater Fest, right? Or at a festival because I want something refreshing, right? And it can. All right, cool. Oh, sorry. Any other thoughts on Pinot Gris, Pinot Grigio? And as you know, we sell a lot of Pinot Grigio. There's some brands out there, and Pinot Grigio used to be probably a little bit, maybe Rick could attest to this. We probably used to sell a lot more. I think back I started in 2008. I knew we sold a lot of Pinot Grigio. All right, let's talk about Riesling. So Riesling loves to be in cooler areas. It's usually really aromatic, high in acid, and can be made from dry to sweet. And it can age really well because of the acidity. So if you're in a cool climate, you usually get these green fruit, citrus fruits. There's almost always lime. If it warms up, you get citrus and stone and tropical. And then people intentionally age Rieslings all the time in their cellars, right? And when you do that, you get you'll hear people talk about petrol, or it smells like kerosene. That'll happen with a couple of years of bottle age, or you get honey. Take your pick. Will it be gasoline or honey? So we, obviously Germany is the probably most famous place and the noble home of Riesling. We also grow a ton in Austria and a bunch in France and Alsace, like we were just mentioning. Washington State, a ton of Riesling made in Washington State, a lot in California, and then Australia makes a lot of Riesling too.
Yeah, back when I started, all the German Rieslings just dominated everything.
Yeah.
Dominated the whole Riesling section.
Yep. Now it's a lot more kind of balanced, isn't it?
Yep.
Let's talk about this. Y'all give me your tasting notes for this Riesling. Oh wait, I went to have my other slide. Sorry. How do we feel about the aromatics? Is it intense? Is it neutral? Is it moderate?
I would say neutral.
Very neutral.
In theory, so we might need to get some better. I'm excited to do this in person sometime because we'll get some, like a Riesling that's very classic, which would have a lot of aromatics normally, a lot of floral and a lot of fruit. What about the acid? Is it high, medium, low?
Kind of low.
Medium.
Yeah. A typical one's supposed to have high. This one I know is a little bit lower. It's from a warmer area. Jimmy just made a face, which is okay. What about sweet to dry? What is this? How would we rank this one?
Seems kind of
I don't think it's sweet.
Very sweet.
It's, yeah, sweeter.
Right. All right. Any other thoughts on who likes the Riesling? Nice. About half of us, yeah. Caroline, I thought we were going to get you. I thought you liked sweet stuff.
That is not that sweet.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We'll have to find something for you. Maybe Moscato. Moscato can be very sweet, right? It's one of the oldest grapes in the world. And you get these really nice peach and orange flavors that I really love in Moscato. There are a couple of places that make a dry Moscato in the world, like in Sicily, and it's awesome. We sell a lot of Moscato. Oh, that's it. That's all I got for Moscato. Any questions on Moscato? One little slide. I apologize. Who here likes Chenin Blanc?
Never had it.
Never had it.
Seek it out and drink it. It's one of my favorites. It's homeland. Its ancestral home is Vouvray in the Loire Valley. And it's cool because it usually has some kind of honey stuff going on, but it's also crisp, so it's refreshing, but it's got little honey stuff going on. And then South Africa also, this is their number one grape is Chenin Blanc. It just grows really well there. That's all I have about Chenin Blanc. Now moving on to Viognier. We're just zipping through these. Viognier is usually a fuller bodied, some people call it maybe oily if they're being rude about it, but I really like Viognier. It's usually really floral. We blend it with Chenin Blanc, with Terra d'Oro. We have that Chenin Blanc Viognier, or, I'm sure you guys have seen Pine Ridge around, right? Chenin Blanc Viognier. They grow really well together. Ancestrally is from the northern Rhone, but a little bit of Viognier is grown everywhere. It's not a super, super popular grape, but there are people that love it. And then we got some Italian grape varieties, right? We already talked about Pinot Grigio, but the next few you might see around are agave, right? I need everyone to help me pronounce this. And the grape is Cortese. So you have to put your hands up like this. So on three, give me Cortese on three. 1, 2, 3.
Cortese.
Cortese, right? The great grape of Gavi, which is a region in Piedmont and northwestern Italy. And then you got Trebbiano, which is grown all over the boot. They grow it all over. It's another one. It's kind of like the Pinot Grigio. It's really neutral and just kind of refreshing, right? It's good. Trebbiano, I think there's a good amount of Trebbiano in the Villa Antinori, Villa White. And we've got some good Gavis. And then one of my favorite grapes of all time, Albarino. Albarino is from northwestern Spain. We call it green Spain, Rías Baixas. And it is super rainy. So they actually have to grow these often really high up in a pergola system, they called it traditionally. Now they just kind of stake them, trellis them up higher. But anyway, so you get a lot of wind or a lot of airflow coming through because it's so wet. Mold is a problem. But it is a light to medium bodied, really high acid, really delicious, refreshing grape. Questions there? Try an Albarino. Okay, let us move now into rosé. Let's go into this. So it can be produced in a couple of ways, but the most respected way is a common or is a short maceration period, right? I was talking about that tea bag at the beginning of class, right? It's just letting it kind of soak, those grapes soak on the skins for sometimes just a few hours, but 12 to 24 hours. And then you will press them off the skins. A less respected way to do it is combining red and white grapes. That's outlawed in a lot of places, but you can do that. All right, dry rosé is very, very popular, right? You get a lot of Grenache. Grenache makes really great dry rosé. Syrah, Mourvedre, Barbera, Pinot Noir. It gives you a lot of red fruits like raspberry, strawberries, etc. And then you got your sweet rosé or blush, like White Zinfandel, which, it's just a sweeter version, basically, of the same thing. A lot of those red fruits, strawberries, but the sweeter it gets, you get some cotton candy and green melon and stuff. Paid for my mortgage, many a mortgage of mine, these blush wines, right? Any questions on those, on rosés? We're just zipping through these things, but we haven't much time, so I want to try to cover everything. Okay, there could be some potential points here. So what makes, Behringer, at least at one point, made both of these bottles. One of them over here, Private Reserve, is about $150, whereas the California collection is what?
$6.99.
$7, right? Can anyone want to venture a guess? Why are these different?
Time in the barrel.
Time in the barrel. Yes.
Storage fee.
Yeah. Hold on. Who said storage fee?
Got it.
Scott. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, storing things costs money. Yeah. Space is money. Where'd
The
you get this?
region, whether it's single vineyard or a specific area, where they got the.
Yeah, exactly. The region, right? What else?
How the grapes are harvested.
Yeah. Are they machine harvested or are they hand harvested? That's a huge one. I think y'all are pretty much getting everything, right? Let me go and pull them up here. So, was that?
Nothing.
I missed it. Dang it.
Inflation.
Inflation. Yes, there's also that.
Whether it's sold at Publix or Costco.
There you go. So here's the difference, right? Here's a couple of things that are different. Napa Cabernet sells for $8,000 a ton, right? This has new French oak barrels, which are about $1,200 a barrel, right? Spread out through all those bottles. Hand harvested. And sometimes we drop the fruit. What does that mean? That means we'll go through the vineyard and literally halfway through and clip off some of the berries so that the plant will concentrate more of the flavors, more of its resources into the fewer clusters that remain, right? And then you got market demand, right? People might have been collecting these for a while. They might know this got Wine Spectator #1 years ago. So it's got a reputation, right? Versus the exact same name, but they're $7. They're getting this Cabernet from the Central Valley, right? Kind of middle of California for $600 a ton. There's no oak. They might sub in some wood chips or staves, right? It's machine harvested for sure. And the market demand, all right, for this type of wine is about $7, right? Any questions there? Easy enough, right? But other things that affect costs, of course, is vineyard, land, labor, and machinery, winery, equipment, oak, and storage, and then packaging, distribution, and sale, exchange rates, transport. If you have to go across the pond, right? That costs a lot of money to get French wine to the US or whatnot. And then taxes and levies. And then let's talk about influencing factors for what you're going to grow, right? So we've got a grape variety. Let's say I've got my vineyards right here. I've got this land right here. Well, this is in northern Germany. It happens to be. So maybe Cabernet is not what I want to grow here, right? Because it's not going to grow well. The environment, maybe it wouldn't work in that environment anyway, right? You might also think about harvesting here. You would have to hand harvest in this vineyard versus not. All right, that's it. I've got one more Kahoot quiz for us, and that's today. One moment, please. So let's go ahead and get our phones back up.
Oh, they can see you. They can hear you.
All right, so that code, if you're doing it the old-fashioned way, it's Kahoot.it. It's 103597. It's a little more seamless this time, isn't it? I feel like we're getting in a little easier this round. All right, is everyone in?
I'm still struggling. Hang on a second here.
You're good.
I guess I timed out.
It'll happen.
That's a minus point.
I haven't even had to give out a single minus point, man.
I'm gonna say we're on the same team. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's plus 8 points.
There you go.
There you go. All right, here.
Everyone in?
Yep.
Let's do it. I think we got another 6 questions. Oh, 7, I lied. Which of these sparkling wines uses the tank method? Champagne, Cremant, Prosecco, or Cava? Oh, I love it. We learned. It's Prosecco, right? All the other 3 use the traditional method or bottle fermentation. Was there a question?
No, I'm saying.
I can't hear you, Jimmy.
Oh my. That last sorry.
I got nothing. I love you, but we're moving on. Which of these bad boys is sweetest? Brut, extra dry, sec, or demi-sec? Oh, nice. Yes, it is demi-sec. Well done. Those Corys cannot be topped. Look at them up there.
Corey's on fire.
I know. Question 3. Unlike red wines, most white wines are pressed before fermentation. Is that true or false? Is that true or false? Oh, I love it. True. 15. It's great. Who didn't get it? I'm just kidding. I wouldn't call anybody out. All right, question 4. Winemakers love using techniques like malolactic fermentation and lees aging on this white grape. Pinot Grigio, Albarino, Sauvignon Blanc, or Chardonnay? Beautiful, Chardonnay. I mean, we use it sometimes on Pinot Grigio, but Chardonnay's famous for it, right? All right. Ooh, Jimbo is the highest climber. Well done.
Right on.
Question 5. I'm a high acid white grape, often with pronounced grassy aromatics. Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, Chenin Blanc, or Albarino? Nice, Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah. We hear grassy, think Sauvignon Blanc. That's one way they describe it.
Lost my streak.
We still got a couple left. We can get back there. Kyle is now the highest climber. Question 6. This grape is produced in droves in northwestern green Spain. Pinot Grigio, Garnacha, Albarino, or Viognier? Nice, yeah, Albarino. One of my favorites.
Almost done.
Question 7. Cortese is a great white grape of which Italian region? Gabi, Chianti, Veneto, or Sicily? Your hands. Cortese. Yeah, most of us got Gabi. Well done.
Holy moly.
All right, in third place with 3 points, we've got SBR. Corey P. And could it be? Could it be another more Corey domination? And Daniel and Candace right behind. All right, guys, I'm going to, everyone just start smiling because I'm going to try to do all three of us. And just go ahead and start smiling because you never know when this thing's going to go.
Alice.
All right, this is a pretty good one, I think. What do you think? Much better, right? Someone validate me. Someone say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. 1 point. Who said that? Carolina?
Yeah.
You get a point for validating me.
Thanks.
All
I should
right.
get a point for being on mute the whole time.
What was that?
I'm kidding. I said I should get a point for being on mute the whole time.
You actually will. Carolina and Bobby get a point. All right, guys. Any questions about today or what we're doing next? So I'm going to send the big email probably tomorrow since it's a little later, but I'll have this in PDF. We didn't really have any questions. Need you to do module 3 on Cornerstone, and then do me a favor and drink these wines with somebody special. And then,
Hey,
And what?
Connor, what was that meme page?
oh, it's called Shitty Wine Memes.
Got it.
They're really good.
You're not going to drink your jungle juice of wine, are you?
No.
Leave her
Big cup
alone.
full of stuff.
Hey, let's go grab dinner soon, dude.
Who'd you say?
My bad.
I thought Jimmy was inviting me to dinner. I got very excited, and then
Well,
it
it sounds like-
turns out, whoops, sorry, I that was a misspeak. I didn't know. I thought I was muted.
Sorry, students only, no teachers.
I guess Professor will drink this alone in the office again, or in the bathroom like Mean Girls. Yeah.
I don't think Jim understands that the wine educator always has access to wine.
That is true. That is true. I can fortify myself in my office alone by myself. Well, you know what? Whoever wins, whatever team wins, gets to have a pizza party with me. What if I make you guys eat lunch with me? How about that?
I like it. Can I be in the winning team?
We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. That's on you. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining today, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And let me know if you have any questions about anything. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Connor.
Connor.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.